Hi everyone, welcome back to class. Today we're going to continue talking about functions, specifically about return. So as a review of last time, where we talked about functions, we said that they are a block of reusable code with a name. We can call a function to run it and pass arguments to a function so that the function can do its job. We talked about defining a function using def to give a name to a block of code. And we also talked about returning a value from a function. Functions are important because they let us reuse code without needing to copy and paste that same code over and over again. So as a review, we did talk a bit about defining and returning in functions. So here we have a function that tells us if a number is even. So when we call is even 5, what happens is that number inside of the function that we defined becomes a variable that contains the value of 5. So whenever we see number inside of this function, it's going to use the value of 5. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. In the first line, we check if number mod 2 equals 0. So number has the value of 5. 5 mod 2 is going to be 1 because when we do 5 divided by 2, it gives us a remainder of 1. 1 is not equal to 0, so this is false. So it'll go down to the else statement and execute the code inside. So it'll return false. But what does returning false mean or do? Like, why do we care about that? Well, we can print it out. So if we do print is even of 5, first we said that is even of 5 is going to return false. So this whole expression or this call of the function becomes false. So when we print is even of 5, it prints false. Another thing we can do is store the return value into a variable. So if we do a variable declaration, order even equals is even of 5, is even of 5 again returns false. So order even is going to be a variable that contains the value of false. So if we print order even, this is going to print out false. As a reminder of how we call functions, here we have float of 2.25. We have the function name, parentheses, and an argument. When we get a return value, float of 2.25 is going to return 2.25, the float, not the string. So what can we do with this return value? Well, as we mentioned before, we can print it out. So if we do print of float 2.25, float of string 2.25 returns the float 2.25. So when we do print of 2.25, it's going to print 2.25. We can also store it into a variable. So here's the same function call float with the string 2.25. Again, we said that this returns the float 2.25. We can store that into a variable called num. So now num is a variable containing the value 2.25, the float. And now we can print out num, which will again give us the float 2.25. Let's take a look at another example. Here we have input. We call it with the function name, parentheses, and an argument. The return value is going to be whatever the user types in. So let's say when I'm asked for a name, I type in Andrea. So Andrea, the string, is going to be the return value. So what can we do with that return value? Well, we can print it out. So when input of name returns Andrea the string, if we print out Andrea the string, that's what's going to print out, Andrea the string. Let's see how we can store it into a variable. So here's the same function. We said it returns Andrea in this example. We can store that return value into a variable called choice. So if we print out choice, choice now contains the value of the string Andrea. So when we print it out, it'll print out Andrea. Alright, your turn to do some practice. Go on over to Utstem and find call, print, and store and do those exercises.